Now that we have power back, welcome back to some more StormWokrs. I'm StormRunner Gaming, and welcome to the second part of this car tutorial here. Looks like my little guy is hiding behind the side of this vehicle here. But yeah, let's jump right into making some automatic gearboxes and everything for this. And of course, if you guys have not seen the first episode of this two-part tutorial here, I'll leave a link down to it down below because there's a lot of stuff I'm building on top of here to build some other systems on this vehicle. So the first thing I want to do here is I'm going to actually put back a couple of the gearboxes that I took out before. I'm going to actually make them the first couple slow down gearboxes instead of the speed up ones, because the engine does run so fast it's a little bit difficult to control, of course. So we're just going to make that there. And then we're going to have the last two actually speed up the engine per se, making us go even faster than we were before. Just like that. So we're going to need to change these values down. The first one's going to be the higher value. And we're going to change, let's just say 5 to 6 should be good for that secondary value. And once we activate these, it'll actually speed up the car, of course. I'm going to leave these at a 1:2 ratio so it doesn't put so much tax on the engine. Because it can be, depending on the ratio you use, you do need to change around some values for this here. But like I said with the last tutorial, we're going to have to add in 6 nodes here for the 6 gearboxes we have. And naming them accordingly. So they're all going to be outputs. I'm going to number them with the gear they have themselves. So 1 through 6 here. And there is our 6th one. And we're going to go in here and change around some stuff. But real quick, I did say I wanted to do a blinker tutorial as well. So all we need to do is grab an input from our turning and an output. We're actually going to need 2 outputs, 2 on-off outputs here for right and left blinkers. So, yep, and we got 2 outputs there. That'll be, actually I can do that first here because those aren't going to be as difficult as other things here. So grab our right, I believe that's our left maybe. And then we've got all the numbered ones. I'm actually going to take all this stuff we worked on last time and move it out of frame here so we have a little bit more room to work. Okay, all of that's gone. Let's move all of this over here as well. And now we have a nice big open area to work on some stuff here. So that's all of our gears here. Apparently we're missing, no, we've got all 6. We're missing our left somewhere. I've moved it and it's just left us. Alright, bad jokes aside. All we need to do for the blinkers here, grabbing a threshold here, 1 for each side. And then we also need to grab a blinker from here, actually to make the lights blink. And we connect a threshold up to a blinker and up to the left and right here. And I don't remember exactly which way turns on which side, so you may have to play with this. If they're opposite, you just switch them. But one side is 0 to 1. I usually do like 0.1 to 1 and -1 to -0.1, just so that when it's going straight, it doesn't turn on the blinkers. Because if you do 0 to 1 and -1 to 0, even when it's straight, both blinkers will be on, and that's kind of weird. So you can also play around with your blinker duration here in the blinker block here, so that those work. And I'll connect them up later, but that's all you really need to do for blinkers here. We can move that whole assembly over there and start working on our gears. And this is where it gets pretty complicated. I mean, it works on somewhat of a system I had previously with my other automatic gearbox, but it changes around a few things to where it becomes a little bit more difficult. I'm also going to be adding in a value for that, what did I call it, the launch button there. So that's going to be something that does complicate it here, and that's why I'm adding in all of these AND values at the end, so that we can control all of the gears with that launch button itself. We're also going to need a not value at the top, And we're going to connect that not value up to one side of all of these and values here. And we're just going to connect this not value up to our launch button, which should be with, I believe this is our launch button right here. Yep, launch button connected up to that not value there. So the next thing we need to do, how I'm actually controlling all of these gears now in this microcontroller sense, is with JK flip-flops here. So what this is actually doing is whenever we have a value coming through here, you can turn it on or off with a click basically. So you set it and then reset it as well. So it's kind of like a memory lock as well, but it doesn't store a number, it just stores on or off. So we're going to have a couple different things going through here to make this work. The first thing, we need an AND value to run over to this JK flip-flop with a threshold above that connecting up to one side of this. We're also going to need two more thresholds here for a couple different values. I'm going to show you what these thresholds are actually doing for us in a second. We're also going to need an OR value for the reset here. So let's grab an OR value and bring that down here. I'm actually going to space that out 2 more blocks, because once we get one of these done, we can just copy and paste, bring it down the line, and we're basically done with it much faster than we usually would have been. So this first threshold on the top here is going to connect up to our AND, and the one on the bottom is going to connect up to the OR value over here. We're also going to need a final threshold connected up to this side of the OR here, and it's a lot of craziness going on, but I'll explain as we go on here. The final part of the block that we need to put down here is a timer here with a number connected up to it. So let's grab our timer and make sure it is the TON timer, not any other type of timer, and we're going to connect up a 0.1 value up to that timer, connecting up that timer to the end of the JK flip-flop here. So now that we've got most, if not all, of the connections done here, we're going to start putting in some threshold values here. So this guy's threshold is going to be from 0 to 5, and the top threshold is going to be from 39 to 101. And these are actually going to be looking at the engine RPS. So once we find our engine RPS over here, we're going to have to use that to bring some values over. Is this engine RPS? That is our throttle coming through. You see, this is where it becomes a little bit difficult finding values and everything. So give me a second, guys, and I'll be right back with that. Alright, we finally found our engine RPS. We're going to connect it up to these 2 thresholds here. So those 2 are going to be testing whether or not the engine is going fast enough to switch up to the next gear. But we also have to ask if the clutch is ready to connect up to the next gear or not. So we're going to go out and connect this up to that multiplication value over here. And we're going to have to give it a value of 0.99 to just basically infinite. Give it a very large number there. We also, our value over here, our reset value, we want this value to reset when we are braking, but not instantly when we start braking. So we're going to give it a value of 0.5 or -1 to -0.5. And as we go down the line, we're going to make this value bigger, basically. So the next one is going to be 0.4, so on and so forth. So the more you brake, the top gears will start going before you get to the lower gear. So if you slam on the brakes and hold it down, all of the gears will slowly go down. But if you only hold it for a second or two, like you're driving down the highway, you might only lose your top gear or your top 2 gears or something. But anyway, that is about all the values we need here. Now the only difference we need for the next branch here, we can take all of this. We need that AND value? No, we do not need that AND value. So let's grab all of this here, except for that top threshold here. Copy it, and then I'm going to paste it down here and putting it right under the previous one there. We're actually going to have to give each spot here a little bit more space than I first anticipated. because we want that somewhere like that. So we gave it 4 spaces. Let's make each one of them 4 spaces under that. And this thing is going to take up a lot more room. Oh well. We've got plenty of space. We've got not infinite space, but a lot of it to go around for stuff here. Alright, so that should be spacing everything out. So now that we've got this, we can just paste that going all the way down the line here, because everything is exactly the same from the previous one. But there's a couple changes you have to make once you paste all of this down here. The first thing we need to do is connecting up this timer to the other side of this AND value here. So what this is actually doing when it's asking, hey, is this first gear activated? And if it's like, yeah, it's activated, then it'll move on and say it's activated and the threshold is high enough to switch. But the problem is, if we don't add this timer in here, it'll see the first gear is activated and it'll go instantly that all of them can be activated at once. And if you think of that as a car going from first gear to 7th gear, you're going to run into a couple problems with everything there. Alright, we need to connect up all these AND values to the actual gear they're connected up to. And we need to connect up the JK flip-flop to the other side of the AND value here. And if anyone's wondering what these AND values are doing here, it's basically saying if we're holding down that launch button there, it's not going to allow us to actually switch gears down, because you want those RPS to build up, but the gears work on seeing if the RPS are high enough to switch up. So without that not an AND value there, those gears would actually start switching up, and when you wanted to launch, all of the gears on would kill the engine. So that's what all these ANDs and that not value from the launch button are doing there. So we also need to grab our seat RPS over here, our throttle seat, excuse me, and connect it up to all of these thresholds over here, because all those thresholds are basically just a check to make sure that the well, it's not checking, but it's basically it's going to turn off gears as we start braking, and the more we brake, the more gears it'll turn off from the top down to the bottom. As you can see, I'm just going down the line, and this final one is going to be pretty low number here. It's just going to say from 1 to negative 0.05 there. So that is a lot of the system done. We have to connect up engine RPS to all of these thresholds here. And one thing you want to do, if you want all of these gears to actually work, you're going to have to move around a couple of values here, because a lot of this, it would be problematic. We need to switch up all of these one number higher than the previous one. So that one's going to be 7, that guy's going to be 8, 9, 10, and that is the final one. So as we get to a higher gear, if the engine is running slower, then it'll downshift and go back to the previous gear with that. We also need to change this threshold for the higher value of gears. For the first 4 gears, I believe, when we're starting from the ones that are slowing down the engine, it is fine, leaving them at a 39 to 101. But once we get to these higher ones, I think my previous values were 38 and 32 for my vehicle. Depending on the power of your vehicle and those gear values, you may have to change some stuff around here. But yeah, that is most, if not all, of the automatic gearbox here. I might have not connected something up here. Hopefully I did connect everything up, but if something is awry, I will fix it. I also want to show off that those blinkers are working correctly. So let's grab 2 lights here, 2 basic lights, and connect them up to the back end here. Of course, like I said earlier, we may have to switch the values between all of them. I may have switched them up, so you can either switch them up or just change left and right so that they, actually are the correct side type of deal. But of course, remember to give gears and everything power. I've done this before where I'm like, why aren't the gears working? And then I realize the gears do not have power themselves. Anyway, more on for my idiocracy. Let's start connecting some gears up. So the first gear is down here, so on and so forth, connecting up all these gears in succession. 4, 5, and number 6. And we don't actually have the lights up here anymore, but I'm going to add the lights back in just to show that all the gears are going down the line and that everything is working correctly here. And I'm going to make them orange color for now so we can actually see them. And we're going to go down the line from 1 to 6 with the gears. I am going to make an actual, once I make this into a new car, I'm going to make an actual gear indicator with a instrument, what is an instrument panel? Yeah, something like that. So that it'll look a lot cooler with that number showing up instead of just lights going down the line. Anyway, that is all connected up. So let's see if that is a working vehicle or not. Hopefully we did not mess anything up. Of course, once we connect up, we did not connect up a value here, it looks like. I totally forgot about connecting up that turning value from A and D. So connect that up and spawn her in. So these should be passively working blinkers. Yep, look, we turned left and we turned right and the blinkers work fine. Let's start that engine up. Got it running. And drive gear is giving us a little bit of problems. I do apologize everyone about that that brief cut from there. I figured out the problem that I had made. It wasn't anything with the microcontroller. I do want to point out a thing or two. I forgot to connect up in the microcontroller, but I accidentally put my gears on the wrong way. So I was trying to start the engine in like 5th gear and it would keep dying. So first off, make sure if you want gears to slow down the engine, they're pointing away from it, and if you want faster gears, you point them towards the source of the engine. Anyways, I want to show you guys the quick microcontroller fix for the gears I made. Just make sure you connect up all of your timers to the AND values. Make sure everything is connected up correctly, because I got it working, but I only had 2 gears, and I figured out that the timer here was not connected. The 2nd gear timer is not connected to the 3rd gear, so on and so forth. 3rd not connected to the 4th. And of course, this threshold needs to be connected up to that multiplication value over here. I did switch it just to see what would change. Nothing changed because it was just anything, but don't listen to me too much. Don't listen into whatever hullabaloo I just said. Just connect it up to that multiplication to this threshold and connect it up to that, because that's where the clutch value is coming from. But yeah, now this system works perfectly. The blinkers work and everything, and I will be putting up this vehicle right here to the workshop. So if you guys do want to learn by example, not by me blabbing, you can of course pick this up as an example version to build it with your own vehicle. Of course, like I said, if you have a different gear ratios, whatnot, different type of engine, you may have to switch around a couple different values to get it working properly here. But anyways, yeah, it works pretty well now, just like the other version. We get gears flying off here pretty quickly, and then we have working gears. I have been playing around with a couple different changes to the other version, but the only thing I've added to the other version is anti-lock brakes, so they like clamp on and off from time to time. But yeah, let's see. I want to see that launch button working perfectly here. So if we hold those brakes down, we lose all of our gears. I set it up to my number 5 button, so I'm going to hold down number 5 here and press W, and those engine RPMs are going to shoot up to about 90 to 100 depending on where you left them at the max. And once we let go of that, this thing's going to rocket off the line. I'm going to get it up to his... Oh, shoot. Holy cow, why did all the gears just pop on? That doesn't usually happen in my other variant. Something's off with it, but maybe a little bit more tweaking maybe in order with that. But I mean, the launch button works. It holds everything off as you're able to rev those buttons. Maybe I need to fix the timing on that or something a little bit, because I'll show off my other version real quick. ABS and a launch button. When you use that launch control, launching it somewhere, let's start it up, put it in drive gear, but hold the brakes down, put that launch button on, then rev the engine. in this variant, I'm only going to get it up to like 90 this time. Maybe it was because I had the engine pinned there. As you can see, it doesn't go all 6 gears right away. It lets the final 2 get up there. But then again, I guess the engine, once you rev it, has so much power, maybe it... I don't know what happened with it. I honestly can't explain so much, but it looks like it's another trashed vehicle here. So let me grab that and bring it back to the workshop here. But yeah, that is our example of vehicles. Of course, if you guys do have any problems with that automatic gearbox, I'm happy to look at screenshots or whatnot in the community Discord, or leave a comment down below. Hopefully I can get back to you as soon as possible, figuring out what is the little bug in your system, because there's so many different parts to this thing. You've got the whole automatic gearbox over here, you've got clutch control all over here, and you've also got blinkers and everything else going on there with the automatic turning on engine. But yeah, hopefully this guy's helped you. Hopefully this helped you guys creating some more vehicles in Stormworks. Of course, if you are trying to customize it as an off-roading vehicle or something, you may have to customize this more to a lower gear or something. Vice versa, if it's a really sporty car, you may have to give it a couple more higher gears instead of slowing it down like I've done. But then again, this thing, it hauls pretty fast anyways. If you get it on the Arctic airstrip, it can easily go over 200 miles an hour, or about 95 meters per second. I believe I said that in the other's episode. But yeah, anyways, happy to help if anyone does need any help with it. But yeah, that is where I will be ending. I'll see you guys later. So of course, if you guys did like this, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel to stay up with Stormworks and more of my content. But I've never been great at goodbyes, so people need me, and I need to go.